Beckham, one-handed catch. How in the world?
Oh my goodness.
I got to bow down. We just entered into the best catches in Giants history out here.
Insane. How do you make that catch?
We know more now about the catch. I mean, I saw it every day.
I don't think he stepped out either.
I never made catches like that. Well, he's a talent.
That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen.
What if the most iconic catch in NFL history was just the beginning of a career that never quite reached its full potential? Odell Beckham Jr.'s one-handed grab in 2014 instantly made him a household name. He finished his rookie season with 91 catches and was named the AP Offensive Rookie of the Year. Proof that the play wasn't a fluke, the start of something special. From there, Beckham's career unfolded through three major turning points: the soaring expectations after his breakout, the clashes and controversies that tested his image, and the injuries that shaped his path forward. His journey raises a simple question: how different could his legacy look if those moments had gone another way? If you enjoy NFL what-if stories, make sure to like the video and share your first memory of OBJ in the comments. That catch didn't just make him famous, it reset the expectations for what would follow. On a November night in 2014, Odell Beckham Jr. stretched out with one hand and pulled in a touchdown against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football.
I don't know what kind of superpower he has, but his hands and his eyes, they're special.
I didn't believe it actually happened. I was just like looking around and I was like, did this really just happen?
This kid is a human highlight reel. He's exciting to watch.
Well, I knew Odell had that type of ability. I played with him in college. All those one-handed catches.
Let's go!
The play became an instant classic, but it also instantly changed his reputation. In the space of a few seconds, he was no longer just a promising rookie. He was a national figure with expectations that would follow him for the rest of his career. What often gets lost in that story is how much more he delivered during that rookie season. Beckham missed the first 4 games with a hamstring injury, yet still finished with 91 receptions and earned Offensive Rookie of the Year honors. Even more impressive, he became the first NFL rookie to record at least 75 catches, 1,100 yards, and 10 touchdowns in a season. Those numbers weren't just good, they were historic. For a player who wasn't even on the field in September, his leap into stardom by December was almost unprecedented. The catch was the spark, but what kept the spotlight on him was consistency. He wasn't just making one-off highlights, he was stacking games where he beat elite defensive backs, created separation in tight windows, and produced when his team needed him most.
Does Manning go to the corner? Pass is caught for the touchdown, Beckham.
The way that he tracks the ball is probably his most defining attribute.
Every week he added to the sense that this was more than just hype. By year's end, discussions about Beckham were no longer confined to good for a rookie. He was being spoken of alongside some of the era's best receivers. But that spotlight came with a cost. Once fans and media witnessed something spectacular, they wanted to see it again and again. Every route, every target, every jump ball was weighed against that first viral moment. For Beckham, even excellent performances could feel ordinary if they didn't also go viral. That demand, that expectation for the impossible, created a pressure that was as heavy as it was immediate. And it planted a question about whether anyone could realistically carry that burden week after week.
As a rookie, like, as much as I want to fill his head up, he's just that good.
For the Giants, however, Beckham was much more than a headline. Their offense, otherwise thin on reliability, leaned heavily on him, and he answered with production that looked almost effortless. Viewers saw him extend drives with contested catches and inject energy into an offense that needed a star. His combination of speed, precision, and reach gave the team something to build around. In a tough stretch for the franchise, Beckham became both its biggest draw and its greatest hope. Still, a tension was forming between what Beckham was and how he was seen. Among dedicated fans and analysts, his first 3 seasons placed him statistically in the company of legends. Averaging more than 90 yards per game during that stretch was proof of substance, not just spectacle.
He's exciting. He's young and special, and he's a pleasure to watch.
Dude is just a walking highlight film.
Yet, casual observers identified him with a single moment. Social media magnified that divide, turning warm-up stunts or practice grabs into headlines, even when his weekly box scores already told the story of elite performance. This split perception mattered because it shaped the lens through which everything else was judged. Was Beckham a new standard at wide receiver or just a viral star prone to hype? Both views persisted, and both followed him. For someone whose personality was as fiery as his game, living inside that kind of dual narrative was never going to be simple. In those early seasons, production carried him through the noise. His highlights were matched by consistent dominance, and the numbers left little doubt about his place among the league's elite. Yet, the same intensity and edge that fueled those performances also showed in moments of frustration. Those remarks on the sidelines, that visible fire after missed plays, what once seemed like raw competitiveness began to raise new questions. It was only the beginning of a bigger story.
And then a kick by Beckham, saying this game's got a chance to get ugly. It might get ugly right now.
It is getting ugly right now.
Beckham's talent had already proven impossible to debate, but how he handled the weight of attention, the pressure of expectation, and the emotions of competition was starting to take center stage. And soon, the drama that came with his fire would become just as discussed as the touchdowns he scored. Beckham's production was undeniable, but during his Giants years, it became just as common to see his competitive fire spill into conflict. The clearest early example came in December 2015 against Josh Norman, then one of the league's most physical cornerbacks. Their matchup quickly escalated beyond normal physical play. Late shoves, face mask grabs, and jawing after the whistle piled up.
These two are still going at it. Well, this has been going on all game. I mean, at some point, this is ridiculous.
By the end of the game, Beckham had drawn multiple penalties, and the league issued a one-game suspension that was later upheld. For the first time, his intensity came with real consequences, and it established a pattern. When emotions boiled over, he sometimes put his team at risk.
What he did, obviously, is on display. You can see what kind of player he is.
The Giants now faced a dual reality. They had an electric player who could take over games, but also a personality whose emotions were highly visible and occasionally costly. Coaches and front office staff had to weigh how much leash to give him, knowing that his competitiveness fueled success while also testing boundaries.
Is it difficult in this physical game to keep your emotions in check?
No, it's not. You're out there competing. You're competing against one of the best teams in the league, and anybody who has a passion for football is going to go as hard as they can.
Fans, too, split into camps. Some admired the passion, others saw it as recklessness. What had once been only about dazzling stats was now about balancing brilliance with volatility. Those tensions didn't erase his impact on the field. In 2016, Beckham helped propel the Giants back to the playoffs for the first time since their 2011 Super Bowl run. The wild card matchup against Green Bay should have been an opportunity to showcase his rise on the biggest stage the NFL offers. Instead, attention shifted in the week before kickoff. A photo shoot on a boat in Miami with several teammates went public, and the timing gave critics a story to latch onto. Was this preparation or a distraction? By game day, the conversation felt as much about the image as about the football. When Beckham's performance against the Packers included several uncharacteristic drops, the photo became the easy explanation. In reality, photos don't win or lose playoff games, but perception shaped the story. Analysts pointed to the moment as proof that attention around Beckham would always find a way to overshadow performance.
They should know better. Because their world is all out there for everybody to see, and they want people to see.
They put it out there.
They want people to see.
Okay.
That's the crazy thing.
Even though he remained one of the most productive receivers in the league across multiple seasons, each misstep drew outside scrutiny. From then on, his reputation carried both the weight of production and the narratives that came from constant visibility. The Giants understood the balance they were facing. On one side was a receiver putting up numbers rivaling Hall of Famers through his first years. On the other was a constant spotlight where every action, on and off the field, was news. Despite those challenges, the team chose to commit. In 2018, they signed Beckham to a $95 million extension, making him the highest paid wide receiver in the league. Publicly, it was a declaration that he was still their cornerstone, and they were ready to build around him. Privately, though, questions lingered. His competitiveness, while central to his game, was hard to contain. Media narratives amplified everything, from sideline reactions to off-field choices. The new deal signaled faith in his value, but beneath the surface, there was unease about how long the balance between production and volatility could hold. The Giants had tied themselves to one of the league's rarest talents, but also to the challenges that came with him. That tension made what happened next even more significant. The contract was supposed to represent stability, yet not long after, his career with the Giants veered in a direction no one expected. And the turning point didn't come with another sideline moment or media storm. It came on the field, in a single play that brought his momentum to a halt and raised brand new questions about what his future would look like. In October 2017, Odell Beckham Jr. fractured his left ankle against the Los Angeles Chargers and missed the rest of the season. Up until that game, his career had been progressing at a historic pace. Across his first 3 years, Beckham averaged more than 90 yards per game, production that put him side by side with the greatest receivers the league had ever seen during that stage of a career. He was still only in his mid-20s, with more highlights in front of him than behind. But the injury put an abrupt stop to a season in which he was expected to carry the Giants' offense, and with one landing, the conversation about his career changed. The image of Beckham being carted off the field stayed with fans because of what it suggested. His talent wasn't in doubt, but his durability now was. Instead of asking how many records he might break, the question became whether his body could withstand the demands of years at the highest level. Injuries in football are common, but timing matters. For Beckham, the fracture struck right when his game was at its peak, interrupting momentum that few players ever built. By the end of his time with the Giants, Beckham had totaled roughly 5,476 receiving yards and 44 touchdowns for New York, numbers that for many wideouts represent an entire accomplished career. That output underscored exactly what was at risk. The ankle fracture didn't erase what he had already done, but it redefined the lens through which he would be viewed. From then on, every burst, every cut, every leap came with an undercurrent of wondering if this might be his last at full speed.
What wound up happening? Exactly what I feared. He broke his leg. I mean, come on. A terrible move by the Giants, sacrificing Odell on the altar of absolutely nothing.
The real shift was in the narrative. Before the injury, Beckham was measured by potential, how high he could climb. After it, evaluation turned to his longevity. How long could he stay elite? And could his body keep pace with his talent? His explosiveness had always been his defining tool, the way he separated himself from defenders. Coming back from surgery, the question wasn't whether he was still talented, it was whether the step he lost to injury would quietly accumulate with time. What added complexity was the Giants' decision just a year later. In 2018, despite the major injury fresh in his memory, the team signed Beckham to a 5-year, $95 million contract. At the moment, the richest deal ever given to a wide receiver. On the surface, it was an emphatic statement of confidence, locking in their most important playmaker as the face of the franchise. But on a deeper level, it was also a decision made under new uncertainty. The organization's long-term calculus had shifted. If Beckham wasn't able to stay healthy, the structure of their rebuild was at risk. Just a few months later, those considerations surfaced more clearly. In March of 2019, the Giants traded Beckham to the Cleveland Browns. For fans, the move felt abrupt and shocking. Why deal away a player universally seen as one of the league's best, especially after committing a record-breaking contract to him?
Gettleman is proving to be a terrible GM, and this was an idiotic move. Odell Beckham Jr. is a generational talent.
But when framed through what had unfolded since 2017, the decision was less surprising. The injury had altered how the front office viewed his future, and the balance between production, durability, and the added attention around him finally tipped towards moving on. For Beckham, that ankle fracture represented more than one painful season. It redirected the arc of his career. What had once been a story about inevitable greatness now contained interruptions and doubts that never fully went away. The move to Cleveland was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance to reset both the perception and the results. It carried the hope that his best football would still be ahead. When he arrived in Cleveland in 2019, the trade wasn't just about a new team. It looked like a turning point for Beckham himself, for a franchise searching for revival. When Beckham joined Cleveland in 2019, the move carried enormous expectations. He was coming to a roster that already had young quarterback Baker Mayfield and a growing core of talent, and his arrival raised the ceiling of what many believed the Browns could achieve. For fans, it signaled more than just a high-profile trade. It was a chance to see their team finally step out of years of mediocrity. Beckham was not the sole reason for all that optimism, but his presence became the central figure in Cleveland's momentum.
Mayfield wants all of it. What an effort by OBJ! One-handed!
The excitement of that first year was real. Pairing Beckham with Jarvis Landry, his close friend and former LSU teammate, gave the Browns one of the league's most dynamic receiving duos on paper. Add in a strong running game and a defense full of playmakers, and the team's roster looked ready to compete at a much higher level than in years past. Expectations for both Beckham and the Browns rose overnight, with many wondering if this was the start of a legitimate playoff push. Early flashes reminded fans why Beckham was such an important addition. In Week 2 against the Jets, he caught an 89-yard touchdown at MetLife Stadium, the same field where his legend started with the Giants.
In stride, OBJ. He comes back to MetLife and does this.
It was vintage Beckham, speed, separation, and the ability to turn a simple play into a game-breaking highlight. That moment captured what Cleveland hoped for, a player who could tilt the field in their favor and make defenses account for him at all times. But as the season wore on, the promise didn't quite line up with results. The Browns' offense struggled for rhythm, and much of it came down to fit. Mayfield was still adjusting to the league and had his own development issues, while the play designs often prioritized quick passing and a run-heavy approach. Beckham, by contrast, flourished in New York when he was able to move across the field, stretch defenses vertically, create separation in space. The chemistry between quarterback and receiver rarely clicked, and it showed in stretches of uneven production. Even so, Beckham finished 2019 with 1,035 receiving yards. For most players, that stat line would signal a successful year. For Beckham, though, it raised fresh questions. Was he still the same player who once dominated the league? Was his role in Cleveland unlocking his talent, or was it holding him back? With expectations so high, the conversation quickly shifted from his accomplishments to what hadn't materialized. The following year brought deeper challenges. In late October 2020, during a game against Cincinnati, Beckham tore his ACL and was ruled out for the rest of the season. For any receiver, an ACL tear is a massive setback. But for one who relied on speed, sharp cuts, and explosive bursts, it was devastating. It marked the second career-altering injury of his career, and the long road back only added more pressure. Without Beckham, the Browns' offense adjusted. Mayfield spread the ball around more evenly, and play calling leaned further into the run game. The results were mixed. At times, the unit looked smoother without trying to force big plays towards Beckham, but it also meant Cleveland missed the kind of explosive element he was meant to provide. The narrative grew more complicated. Critics argued the team performed better with him sidelined, while supporters pointed out that the system had never maximized his abilities.
Whether it's running reverses, the fast switch, I don't believe that you'll see the same Odell Beckham when he returns that you see right now.
Beyond statistics, perception was shifting, and not in his favor. By 2021, the gap between expectations and reality was clear. Beckham still provided flashes of elite skill on occasion, an acrobatic sideline grab here, a burst of speed after the catch there, but injuries and inconsistency kept him from being the focal point of Cleveland's attack. The player who once changed games weekly was now a complementary piece, no longer able to command the same impact. Years of setbacks reshaped his prime, erasing the momentum of his historic early seasons. The chapter closed in November 2021, when Beckham and the Browns agreed to part ways. For Cleveland, acquiring him had once symbolized the hope of a new era, but the fit never fully materialized. For Beckham himself, what began as an opportunity to revive his career had become another stretch defined by injuries and unanswered questions. Yet, the story didn't end there. Despite his struggles in Cleveland, Beckham still carried the same driving motivation that had defined him since his rookie days, to prove, on the field, that he remained one of the game's most dangerous weapons. That determination would soon carry him to another team, and to the game he had been waiting for his entire career. In 2021, Beckham found himself wearing the uniform of the Los Angeles Rams, a team already viewed as one of the most complete in the NFL. With Matthew Stafford at quarterback and Cooper Kupp putting together a historic season, there were questions about where Beckham would fit. After uneven stops and repeated injuries, some wondered if he could still be a difference maker. The Rams gave him the opportunity, and through the playoffs, he answered that question with some of his most impactful football in years. His role wasn't to outshine Kupp, but to provide the balance the Rams' offense needed. Defenses keyed so heavily on stopping Kupp that Beckham often had room to create. In the wildcard game against Arizona, he caught a touchdown and even threw a successful downfield pass, a reminder of the creativity he still brought. Against Tampa Bay, he turned in key receptions that extended drives against the defending champions in a tight contest. Then, in the NFC Championship against the San Francisco 49ers, Beckham recorded 9 catches for 113 yards, his biggest performance in years, and helped Los Angeles punch its ticket to the Super Bowl. That playoff run restored belief in him as an elite receiver. On a team with structure, rhythm, and a quarterback who trusted him, he looked sharp, confident, and capable of changing games once more. For Beckham, the journey now pointed to the league's biggest stage, a chance to rewrite how his career was remembered. Super Bowl 56 began as the dream stage he had long been chasing. In the first quarter, Beckham slipped behind coverage and hauled in a 17-yard touchdown from Stafford. It was the Rams' opening score of the game, and it carried the feeling of a full-circle moment. The once viral rookie, now redefining himself on football's grandest night. Millions of viewers saw him deliver. And through the early drives, it was clear that the Rams had built their plan with Beckham as a central part. The game shifted at the second quarter. As Beckham made a routine cut across the middle of the field, his knee gave out, and he immediately crumpled to the turf. The stadium fell quiet as he reached for his leg, the slow-motion replay confirming the worst, a non-contact injury to the same knee that had troubled him before. Hours later, the confirmation arrived, a torn ACL. For Beckham, this was more than just leaving the field. This was another brutal rewrite of a night that had been building towards redemption. The Rams eventually found a way to finish the job. Without Beckham, Stafford leaned even more on Kupp, who delivered in the fourth quarter and earned Super Bowl MVP. The team secured a title, and Beckham celebrated his first ring with teammates. His contributions to the playoff run have been decisive, and his opening touchdown in the championship set the tone. Still, fans couldn't help but wonder what a full game from Beckham might have looked like. His momentum, his matchup advantages, and his early success suggested he could have changed the game's course entirely. Some even believe the MVP trophy might have been his had he stayed on the field. That night summed up Beckham's career better than any single stat line could.
Take me home!
He reached the pinnacle of the sport, and yet at the same time suffered the kind of setback that had repeatedly interrupted his story. He stood on the podium as a Super Bowl champion, but walked off knowing another long rehabilitation was waiting. He walked away with a ring, but the moment also underscored how injuries would keep raising that question of what his uninterrupted prime could have produced.
I wish we could rewind back the time and he never got hurt. I think O might have been the first $200 million deal.
The Super Bowl gave Beckham the validation of a title, showing he was more than a highlight machine from his Giant days. He was a player who had directly impacted a championship run, but the torn ACL also reinforced just how much his physical limits had shaped his path. In the years that followed, whether in Baltimore or beyond, the spotlight grew dimmer, and the flashes of brilliance replaced the dominance once expected weekly. When fans look back today, that night in Los Angeles still stands out. The touchdown, the injury, the celebration. It was all the beauty and heartbreak of his career distilled into a single game, and it leaves lingering questions that continue to define the way people talk about him. What happened on that stage gave him everlasting recognition, and at the same time deepened the sense of everything left unfinished. It is that dual legacy that carries forward whenever people debate where Beckham truly belongs in football's history. Odell Beckham Jr.'s career is a reminder of how brilliance and setbacks can exist side by side. His one-handed catch launched him into stardom, but the years that followed mixed unforgettable highlights with injuries that changed his story. Across his career, he recorded 575 catches for nearly 8,000 yards and 59 touchdowns. Yet, questions about what might have been never fully disappeared. That tension, dominance versus an interrupted prime, defines how people still talk about him today. So what do you think? Tell us below. Hall of Fame worthy or a story of what might have been? Hit like if you remember that catch, and subscribe for more NFL deep dive stories.